Hello and welcome to Biology Unit 1, What is Biology? In this video, I will be explaining to you what biology is, as well as a little bit of information on some key concepts that are going to come up in the performance tasks in the labs for Unit 1. So let's go ahead and get started. First, what is biology? Biology is the study of living things. If you are studying any living thing at all, then you are involved in what a biologist would do. And a biologist knows that all living things have 5 characteristics, and we can make an acronym out of that called GRACE. G for growth and development, R for reproduction, A for adaptation or adjustment, C for cells, and E for energy. All living things have all 5 of these characteristics. So let's get into a little bit about what these 5 characteristics actually are. Growth and development. Growth means change in size. Living things become larger and more complicated as they grow. For example, you have grown since birth. Your body has a lot more things going on in it right now as a teenager, and you're so much more complex than you were when you were 2 years old, 1 year old, 6 months years old, still in your mother's womb. That's because as a living thing, you have the characteristic of growth. Development goes hand in hand with growth. That's a change in form. For example, a caterpillar becoming a butterfly is an example of a living thing exhibiting or showing development. Another characteristic that all living things have is that they reproduce. All living things produce young. Humans make babies. Cats produce kittens. Penguins lay eggs. Plants also reproduce by making seeds. All of these are living things. All of these are reproducing somehow, some way. All living things also have the characteristic of adaptation and adjustment. These are similar but not the same thing. Adaptation is a trait resulting from evolution that allows a species the ability to survive better. Now, in this unit, we're not going to talk too much about exactly what evolution is, but just know that adaptations are traits that result over time as genetic information is passed from one generation to the next. Adjustment is an individual response to some kind of stimulus, which we're going to be talking a little bit more about when we get to homeostasis. So when you shiver because it's cold, when you see a threat coming after you, like a lion that wants to eat you, and you start running or you panic or you fight back, that's you adjusting to a situation. So adjustment is something an individual does. Adaptation is something you usually see across an entire population. All living things also have cells. We are composed by at least one or more cells. There are some organisms that are considered unicellular and they only have one cell and they are still living. But most things that you encounter, at least are able to see without a microscope, like yourself, your family, your pets, we are all multicellular because we are made of thousands and maybe even millions of cells. Another characteristic that all living things have is that we all require energy and food. Energy is the ability to do work. That includes things like, actually going to work, going to school, but also the things inside your body, keeping your heart rate going, sweating, burning calories. This is all work that your body is doing. And when it comes to the characteristic of requiring energy, most living things fall into one of 2 categories, and that's heterotrophs, which is most animals and humans that must ingest food. That means they actually have to bite into or drink it. Or the autotrophs, which is plants and similar creatures that make their own food. They don't have to go and find it or grow it or hunt it. So while my descriptions of the 5 characteristics was fairly brief, and they're not that complicated to understand, if you're to dig deep, I'm sure you can appreciate that all 5 of those characteristics are truly very complex and very complicated, and oftentimes your body is trying to manage all of them at once. And those characteristics often affect one another. So as you can imagine, there's this huge, complicated balancing act going on inside your body. And if any of those characteristics stopped working properly or stopped occurring, it's possible that your body could start to become out of balance. And your body works very hard to stay in balance. And to do that, your body manages something that is known as homeostasis, which is the maintenance of constant internal conditions in an organism. Homeostasis describes the relatively constant physical and chemical conditions that organisms maintain despite changes in internal and external environments. Homeostasis may not be obvious, but for a living organism, it is literally a matter of life or death. Because without that balance, your organs, your heart, your central nervous system, your brain, all these interconnected things, some of them would start to fall apart. And if those things start to fall apart, other things start to fall apart, and you can die. That is why homeostasis and maintaining balance between all these complex processes happening inside your body is so important. I'm going to be devoting an entire video to homeostasis because it is such a critical cornerstone foundation for most of what you are going to be seeing in Unit 1. And the last thing I want to talk about in this video having to do with biology and understanding what biology is understanding what the universal genetic code is. The universal genetic code is the concept that all living things use the same genetic code. We are all different. You are not the same as a tree. You're living, but you are not the same. However, you are made of the same building blocks. You might think like, whoa, how can I be made of the same thing as a tree? It's made of wood. I'm made of flesh. There's no wood in me unless I ate some. No, you're not wood, and the tree is not flesh, but you are made of the same genetic building blocks. And how you arrange those building blocks, or how nature arranges those building blocks, is what determines the differences between all living things and all dead things as well. In fact, those 5 characteristics we talked about are determined by the nucleic acids in your genes containing genetic information, which is the blueprint for how to use those building blocks. So think about Legos. Legos, you can make all kinds of things. You can make an airplane. You can make a pirate ship. You can make a spaceship from Star Wars. All very different things, and yet they are all built from the same genetic code. In this case, it's Legos, but for us, it's nucleic acids. And that's all there is for today. If you have any questions, please let me know in class. Thank you.